4. Philosophy Reflections on the Essence of Education. Philosophy provides a way to examine and interpret the world, to ask basic questions about human nature, beauty, principles of right and wrong, and how knowledge and reality are defined. Philosophy resides in people's minds and hearts and is seldom expressed in words or specific ideas. Philosophy becomes the response to everyday problems and questions that arise during the school day. Philosophy helps us to focus on the underlying issues and assumptions and beliefs that are not always evident to us in the hectic pace of a life. Philosophy presents opposing views about human nature, knowledge, and the world we live in. If we examine these differences, you will be able to identify your own physical philosophy and state it clearly with language and concepts. Metaphysics is a branch of philosophy that is concerned with questions about the nature of reality and the world in which we live in. Metaphysics means beyond the physical, with questions such as, what is reality? What is existence? Is the universe rationally designed or ultimately meaningless? The teacher's classroom approach will be linked to the teacher's metaphysical belief. For example, the teacher believes that very specific basic knowledge is crucial to the child's intellectual development. Or the teacher holds the child is more important than the specific subject matter. It is likely the teacher will focus on the child and allow the child to provide clues on how he or she should be instructed. Epistemology is a branch of philosophy that examines questions about how and what we know, what knowledge is true, and how does knowledge take place. Is there a difference between knowledge and belief? Teachers must be able to assess what is knowledge to determine whether a particular piece of information should be included in the curriculum. Should teachers train students in specific methods, deductive reasoning, or both? Should students study logic or fallacies or follow intuition? Teachers' knowledge of how students learn influences how they teach. Axiology is a branch of philosophy that deals with the nature of values, what is good and what is beautiful. Questions about what should be or what values we hold are highlighted in axiology. Axiology is divided into different ethics: moral, which is values and conduct, and aesthetics, values in the realm of beauty and art. Ethics deals with such questions as, what is good in life? How should we behave? When does the end justify any means of achieving it? Aesthetics deals with the theory of beauty and examines questions. Is art public and representative, or is it the product of private creation and imagination? Both ethics and aesthetics are important issues in education. Should a system of ethics be taught in public schools? If so, what is the system like? Aesthetics questions in education involve artistic work. Should or should not be included in the curriculum. Should we encourage writing or drawing or painting in class? When a philosopher encounters a contemporary problem, they often spend time analyzing it in an attempt to clarify or find the real problem, not just the surface issues. Analytic thinking processes help focus on the problem clearly and precisely. Different ways are abstract, imagination, generalization, and logic. Abstract thinking draws away from concrete level experiences to a conceptual plane of principles or ideas. The three-step process that moves thinking from singular concrete instances to more general universal ideas. Focus attention on some feature within one experience. Examine the precise characteristics of the feature. And 3, remember the feature and its characteristics later so as to apply them to other instances or combine them with other ideas. Imagination can be thought of as the altering of abstractions. In philosophy, the use of imagination assists the process of abstraction by filling in the details of the idea, selecting the details, and relating the ideas to one another. This can occur when a person first focuses on some abstract or idea. Ideas come from one, makes observations, reflections about the past experiences, reads and views a dramatic work or piece of art, or converses with others. Generalization sets ranges and limits to the abstraction that have been altered by imagination. As one imagination relates more and more ideas to another, the process of generalization determines which relationships should be emphasized or de-emphasized. Logic examines and proposes reasoning principles that allow us to move from one argument to the next. Deduction logic is a type of reasoning that moves from general statements to a specific conclusion. Induction logic is a type of reasoning that moves from opposite directions from the particular instances to general conclusion. Prophetic thinking seeks to uncover multiple, even divergent realities or principles. Prophetic thinking has emerged as a component to the highly successful but rigid analytic thinking style. A prophetic thinker is one who goes beyond abstraction and lives in multiple realities, feelings, and touching these realities. They understand these realities so well that a bridge can be built between and among the multiple words. Discernment is the capacity to develop a vision of what should be out of a sophisticated understanding of what has been and is. A discerning teacher examines the total content of a children's life and makes decisions based on this content. Connection. A prophetic thinker must relate to or connect with others. Rather than considering humankind in abstract, a prophetic thinker values and has empathy for other human beings. Tracking hypocrisy is important for a prophetic thinker to identify and make known the gap between principle and practice, between promise and performance, between rhetoric and reality. Tracking hypocrisy needs to be done in self-critical thinking. It takes boldness as well as courage to point out the inconsistencies between school policy and practice, but when doing so, a prophetic teacher remains open to other points of view. Hope. Given the numerous and horrific examples of people's inhumanity to one another, we still need to believe and have hope that everybody is intrinsically good. Philosophers of technology take a look at the technology by asking questions about the consequences that technology has on physical and human condition. With the use of technology, some philosophers are concerned that humans' ability to present things in a specific way could hide the actual essence of a thing. People often struggle to determine whether one technology enhances or distracts from the essence of life and the natural order and learning. While other philosophers consider technology a natural component of the changing world because change is natural, then technology means it's natural. Technology is here to stay. The problem is how a teacher or a person will use technology to enhance the classroom, but try not to detract from the needs of all members in society. When you consider that teachers are charged with the task of preparing students for life in this complex world, it would seem that they, more than any other member of society, are obligated to assume the role of the philosopher. To answer questions like what knowledge is of most worth, how learning should be provided, and what value should be directed behavior, we answer these questions by how we set up our classrooms, by the way we teach students, the rules we impose, by the way we relate to others. Teachers are philosophers. We live out our personal philosophies every time we enter our classrooms. We as educators need to reflect on our views about the world, human nature, knowledge, and ethical behavior, because every teacher is a natural philosopher when we reflect about our own practices. Idealism, ideas and concepts are essential of knowing. Realism, reality, knowledge exists outside the mind. Pragmatism, universe is dynamic and ever-changing. Existentialism, reality is found in lived experiences. Idealism is a school of philosophy that holds that ideas and concepts are essential of all that is worth knowing. Idealists believe in the power of reasoning, but they emphasize both a scientific method and sense perception. The educational philosophy of idealist is the idea-centered rather than subject-centered. The child-centered because the ideal or idea is the foundation of all things. We need to emphasize the study of ideas and great works throughout the ages. We need to emphasize the importance of great leaders to imitate. For idealists, the teacher is the ideal model or example for the students. And idealists believe that methods of lecture, discussion, and imitation. They believe that thinking clearly and accurately is critical to uncover the big ideas that account for the universe. There is an emphasis on asking questions that spark thought.